Word of God shaped the history of our nation. Well, the reason they want to deny it and destroy it is because all of their secular philosophy, all their liberal philosophy, it crumbles when truth is shown of where our nation came from. And it's the only logical way a nation like America could not only be founded, but also could continue by those basic principles. That's why we see even still the Ten Commandments on the courthouse walls, various places. And Washington is proliferated with the Word of God.
To read the original charters and documents of American history, we see that this nation has a strong Judeo-Christian foundation. But what has changed it? Critics note that key court decisions through the years have done much to alter the American landscape.
That's right. The second decision is in.
We have breaking news from the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court will be back in session. This next term will see its share of landmark cases that will see critical decisions on gun rights, religious liberty, and immigration.
Is there a battle for the soul of America? And if so, where do the courts fit in that?
There, for a generation, I believe, has been a battle raging for the soul of America. And while you and I tend to focus sometimes on the ballot box, we will focus on legislatures, many on the left have always rushed directly to the Supreme Court or to the courts, because in judicial fiat, it seems that they can get decisions made that overturn a lot of work that's done by good organizations by trying to advance good policy. And we certainly at Human Coalition Action advance good public policy and good laws supporting pro-life positions. But we can't underestimate how important the courts really are.
In the courts recently, there have been many decisions of interest to Christians. Some have been victories and others defeat for the biblical worldview that gave birth to America. Whether they won or lost, many Christian legal groups have been in the trenches, doing the hard work, fighting for God and country. There was a defeat for the sanctity of life this term when the Supreme Court struck down a Louisiana law that tried to protect women injured while having abortions.
It's common sense that women should be able to receive time-sensitive, emergent medical care in the cases of an abortion emergency. It basically boils down to what they call admitting privileges, and it was requiring that abortion doctors have these admitting privileges. Should there be a botched abortion, they would be required to assist with making sure that these women would get the help that they needed at a nearby medical facility or hospital. And so in this case, the court again decided ruling, granting mediocre care to those that really need the best care possible when this type of situation arises.
Does this type of situation arise more often than we're led to believe?
That's a great question. This type of situation arises more often than most of us would think.
For nearly 200 years, a group of Catholic nuns, the Little Sisters of the Poor, have been providing comfort and help for elderly poor people as they face death. But after Obamacare passed, the federal government was trying to force the nuns to pay for contraceptives, including abortifacients, that is, abortion-inducing drugs. This violated the nuns' conscience rights, so they fought it in court.
I never thought that I would live to see the day in America when the federal government would fine people for their religious convictions. But that's exactly what the Obamacare contraception mandates are all about.
But the government forces us to either violate our conscience or take millions of dollars that we raise by begging for care of the elderly poor and instead pay fines to the IRS.
In fact, the Little Sisters stated elsewhere that if they had lost, they would have been forced to shut down. Thankfully, the court ruled in favor of the nuns.
We were happy that the Supreme Court sided strongly on the side of Little Sisters of the Poor, basically saying, no organization, Christian, religious, any, group should be forced to violate their strongly held religious convictions or conscience, violating their conscience because of, of an order like this that would come through, in this case, Obamacare.
If you lose religious freedom, you'll lose all your freedoms. We're really seeing that in the midst of this pandemic.
When you look at the debate that's going with COVID, we're saying, what are essential services? Well, in the minds of a lot of governors, churches are not essential.
In the case of Calvary Chapel Dayton Valley v. Sisolak, the Supreme Court set religious liberty back by ruling against a Nevada church that wanted to open up safely during the pandemic.
I mean, all people have to do is look at them saying, the experts even saying, well, you can't sing at church, but oh yeah, we're the protest, we're okay with that because that's important. And which belies an understanding that they have that the church is not important, that religious freedom is not important.
In his brilliant dissent in the Calvary Chapel case, Justice Gorsuch stated, in Nevada, it seems it is better to be in entertainment than religion. Maybe that is nothing new, but the First Amendment prohibits such obvious discrimination against the exercise of religion. The world we inhabit today, with a pandemic upon us, poses unusual challenges. But there is no world in which the Constitution permits Nevada to favor Caesar's Palace over Calvary Chapel. Thankfully, it should be noted that during the coronavirus crisis, there have been some victories for religious liberty in courts at the lower level.
I think the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals said it really well. They overturned what the governor of Kentucky was doing, and that was the mayor of Louisville and all those other things that were going. And they said, we're not going to let the Bill of Rights sleep during this pandemic. And that's exactly right, because we are a nation of laws, not of men.
Another example of church and state court cases during the coronavirus crisis involves Pastor John MacArthur of Grace Community Church in the greater Los Angeles area. Multiple times he and his church have gone to court just so they could go to church without government harassment.
We must obey God rather than men. This is a triumphant hour for the church to be the church.
Sadly, other California churches don't seem to be faring as well. John MacArthur said, it should shock the conscience of every Christian that churches are coming under assault from our own government simply for holding church. Church is essential. The worst decision from the Supreme Court this term redefined civil rights to include sexual identity and preference.
The Supreme Court's decision in the Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia, was extremely disappointing, and especially disappointing because both Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Neil Gorsuch agreed with the majority, and Justice Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion.
In the recent Bostock decision, where the word sex, going back to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, in which it was very clearly understood. In fact, the court itself acknowledged that it was a reference to biological male and female. But yet, they redefined the term sex to include gender identity and sexual orientation.
What this amounts to is really an effort by the LGBT movement to obtain through the courts what they could not obtain through the democratic process. They did the same thing with the redefinition of marriage. And now they've achieved this in terms of rewriting our civil rights acts, rewriting the federal civil rights law, the basic federal civil rights law, and to claim with an apparently straight face that Congress actually protected homosexual and transgender people back in 1964.
I think it was kind of the Roe v. Wade of religious freedom, because this is opening up Pandora's box in terms of attacks on religious institutions and people who operate according to a Christian worldview, a biblical worldview that God created, as Jesus affirmed in Matthew, that God created a male and female. And now to believe that and to act upon that, you will find yourself facing the wrath of your government because of a court decision.
The Bostock decision certainly shows the importance of judicial nominations and the importance of elections in general. The importance of the elections, both for Congress and for President, cannot be overstated.